We're going to see now Be'ez Hashem Yisbarach, Maseches Peah, Daf Lamed Aleph, the Mishnah Halacha Vav, the end of the third parak. Rabbi Glick, Karka Beit Rova Peah, a land that's big and the size of a Rova Kav. That's about 10 by 10 amas, 100 square amas. It has to produce at least 2 sa'ah. So it doesn't say the amount of amas, but that type of land that can produce 2 sa'ah of grain. It's enough if it's 6 by 6, that's an amal, 1 amma. If it's enough even to cut once and twice. You take the sickle, you hold on to the grain, you give it cut, and you go further on, you cut again. That's called liktzoy v'lishnos. My time, Rabbi Glick, where does he know his source? It says by kalayim satcha l'sizra kolayim, satcha l'sizra kolayim. Ma satcha shneim l'halam beis rova, satcha shneim kan beis rova. By kalayim, there is later on, we see Masechet Kalayim, that the size of a rova, that must be the distance between wheat and yerek. It's not the Gemara just says that number we find there by Kalayim. Here also we use the number of Beis Rova for the size of a field that's Chai Peah. My time there Yeshua. Nemekan Satcha Nemel Halan B'Shachta Oime Basode. It's called by Shikha. It says also the words Shachachta Oime Basode, and here it says Pa'as Satcha. Lo Yisachala Pa'as Satcha. So we see Ma Sosh Nemel Halan Sasayim, because the bloch is, we'll see later on, that if you forgot a big bundle that's 2 sa'ah, it's not shikha. So here also af counts time. At my time they have typhon. Shishal shisham meruga. You know, not from meruga. We have already the din in Maseches Kalayim, Maseches Shabbos, that a square of 6 by 6, it can be zereya 5 seeds. So we see that's the standard number of 6 by 6 tfachim. The Gemara is going to go now on him. Ma. What does he mean? We're going now and specifically on Medon Beseira. Does it mean literally 2 stalks? Or does it mean you have a big, you hold on to a nice amount of wheat and then you cut it? The pasuk of Tehillim, when it talks about cutting, it says you filled up your hands, your palm of your hands, that's the person is collecting the bundles already, he's filling up his bosom. But the main point is chapoy, that when he cuts, then he fills up his hand. Karka Kol Shehu, even a tiny piece of land, chayevas bepeah, bikkurim, malicht of olav Prozbul. It's enough that somebody gives a loan, and he wants to write a Prozbul. So if the loive, the lender, has a tiny piece of land, then he can make a Prozbul upon that. You can also buy Nechasim she'ein machrayis means movable objects together with that piece of land. If somebody is a sick man and he's about to die and he gives away his property, Shiur Karka Kol Shehu matanasa kayemes. Lo Shiur Karka Shehu ein matanasa kayemes. If he does not give away everything, and then he wakes up and he becomes well, we say whatever you gave, you gave. Because if you left over something, it means you are giving it with a full, full consent. You're not merely doing it because you think you're dying. However, Karka Kol Shehu, so you give every single thing away. It must be you only did it because you were so sure that you're not going to wake up anymore. So now that you did wake up, you can take everything back. There's another halacha here that has to do with leaving over a tiny piece of land. Or here talking about giving his wife. If he gave her something, so that's a sign that she agrees that should be to cover up for her ksuba. And even though she has a very expensive ksuba, she doesn't get that. She gets that karka and that's it. Even she didn't even get anything. Zero. She was just there while he did it, and she didn't protest. It means she forgave, and she doesn't want to claim. She waived any claim that she can have against the ksuba. He's asking, what does it mean that one? It says that Karka Kol Shehu. Karka Kol Shehu means a tiny piece of karka is chayav b'peah. Imagine there's only one stalk. Actually, kotzar in kachi of peah. Mishe kotzar in kashiur. So, how can it be? The whole chi of peah, the obligation starts after you start doing a ketira, a cutting. And here, once you cut it already, there's nothing left over. On that, the Gemara answers, there's one stalk that has 5 things coming up from them. So then we can say that if you start cutting one, or then the other ones, or you can start cutting 3 or 4, the one that's left over in the ground is peah. Why doesn't he say the word kama? Why does he use karka? At the beginning, the tana bikkurim, tana karka. By bikkurim is not only by grain; it can be by other fruits. So that uses karka because of the bikurim. Tana ve're'oyan Rabbi Yossi b'shem Rabbi Yochanan mish ein lekarka potem min re'oyan. Somebody who doesn't own any land does not need to go to see Hashem 3 times in a year. You can also say a different halacha that he potter from vidui. That's true. Somebody doesn't have karka does not need to be mizvada vidui that you say by bikurim. So let's say it grew on your land and then you sold it. You can't say vidui anymore. So you potter from re'iyah. You don't own any land. A person went up to Yerushalayim, to Beis Hamikdash, and he left over his pile of grain, and he came back, he saw lions surrounding it. He saw the cats are torn open. So Hashem made a nace that the chickens should be able to tear up the cats. So he found a snake around his lock, so nobody could steal it because there's a kid from the snake. Pinchas said a certain story. They had Goyish neighbors in Ashkelon. And they said, when these Jews will go up to Yerushalayim, and now Nazim come at this line, it's a perfect opportunity. We can grab away everything that they have. Minda Salkin, when the Yidden went up to Zimun Hamakosh Bochem Malachim Mechnosam Yitzim Mit Musam, Hashem prepared for them Malachim that came in and went out. They looked exactly like these people. When they came back from Yerushalayim, Shalchun Loin Bekaman, then Hashem sent them away. Amru Loin, they said to them, they came back. They go and asked them, An Havisim, where did you go? Amle B'Shalayim. What do you mean? Went to Yerushalayim? What do you mean? We saw you here. How do you say went to Yerushalayim? We saw you. Amru Loi Banash. No. I didn't even live over anything. Not a single person. V'loi Banash. Af. Amru Brich Elokain da Yidai de Leishav Kun. Hashem does not forsake them, but they do not forsake Him, and He does not forsake them. You see from that you can give a lot of movable objects along with real estate. You make a kinyan in the Karka, and Agav, you coin all the other stuff. If they're piled up on that piece of land. How about if you have land in Yerushalayim and you have a lot of animals in Bnei Brak? Can you possess the animals with a kinyan that you make in the Karka of Yerushalayim? There's a person that had a lot of metaltum, a lot of movable objects. He wanted to give them away. You have to buy some land. He bought one stone. I give that half of the stone with 100 barrels of wine. Another 100 barrels of wine of oil. So we see from that even though it obviously did not put all these barrels on that stone, it doesn't have to be in the same spot. You can make a kinyan and be zoiche in you can be zoiche the metaltalim agav the karka. Amar Chananya Kumrabman said, no, hold on a second. What's the story there? This guy was a shchimra. He was about to die. It's not a good proof, because that story we're talking about a shchimra. He can even do without any kinyan at all. So, just with words. So whatever was done there was totally unnecessary. So maybe there, why not? You can even be kind of if they're not on the karka. Armalei. So this is what Chananya asked for Rabbanan. Rabbanan said, "Lo Rabbi Lezer, Shani Yechimar Lezer Kabar Rabbanan." You know, Rabbi Lezer does not hold at all of the shchimra. He holds the shchimra needs a regular kinyan. He does not hold this famous halacha of divish shchimra kichsuv mechemsurim dami. So according to Rabbi Lezer, that story was according to Rabbi Lezer. So for him, it doesn't make no advantage that the fact that a person was a shchimra, and still, nevertheless, we see that you can be koine the metaltalim even though they're not on the karka. So it's a good proof that they do not need to be piled up on the same land. Tamantanina, Rabbi Akiva, Karka Kol Shehu Peah v'chuli. It says also you can be koine on that tiny piece of land whatever you want. Maybe there was one stalk of grain, and there was a diamond hidden inside that stalk. So it's not a proof that it does not have to be on top of the land. It has to be on the ground when you want to make a kinyan in the metaltal. What is the definition of a shchimra? If it's not, it doesn't mean he's very, 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 very sick. It means even though he's just mildly sick, it's all considered shchiv mara, and he can give away without any kinyan. And also the same, we have to understand, the Mishnah says the din of a shchiv mara, that he can change, if he wakes up, he can retrieve and make void of the matana, of the gift that he gave. So such a type of person that mildly is not very sick, he's just weak. So the kroim, the close relatives visit him right away. They wait for 3 days. That's when they come visit. If he's severely ill, then everybody comes visit him right away because they don't know when he's going to die. The Lema story. They came to visit him after 3 days. So it says that the Rechoikim come after 3 days. It says, do you want to do them? In other words, you're trying to treat me as a stranger. And he wasn't happy with that. I'm not a stranger. I'm your chaver. You should have come right away. Even if he became well, that's the whole point of the Mishnah. He cannot change his mind. The fact that he left over a tiny piece means that he is serious about his gift. Karka Kol Shehu talking when he did become well, we say that he can change because since he gave everything away, we see that he did not do it only because he was 100% sure that he's going to die. And since he woke up, he can retract from his gift. Also, divish chivmara kebar isha kosev anosan, vehu shemeis ma'isa choil. It's divish chivmara kechsuv mechemsurim dami. That's the famous din that chivmara, just with his words, the things happen. But we're talking a case where he actually died from that sickness, illness. If he ended up becoming well, then no. Then he can change his mind. That's when we say he can change his mind. So there's a certain interesting aspect here that the din of a shchiv mara is only if he's Messiah. That shows that he's doing it. It's a very clear-cut thing that he wants to liquidate all his properties and give this person that, this person that. But if he's not so clear, he's a little bit vague, then it says half of my land, half of the land. Or it says that's considered siyum. But let's say it says, I want to give away all my properties for these people. It's not so clear. It says half this, half that. Then it's not clear. And then we say that does not help. I'm not sure. This is a condition that's meant to be that if he's not Messiah, then he does not. Then we don't say divish chivmara kibarish kosev anosan. I think that's the main point here. That when do we say his words are considered like a matana if he specifies exactly what he wants to do. It doesn't seem that Yerushalmi is trying to say that that even if it becomes well, however, even if he becomes well, if he was not assigned, he cannot retract. It doesn't make sense to say such a thing. Why not? So I would suggest here that this should be like put in brackets. That's how we have to read this. First we say this statement, and then we say just a side note, and we say b'Messiah, then we say Yerushalmi Kifshuto. Rabbi Glick says a statement like this: Shiur metaltalim le'asabel klim. If the Mishnah says he has to leave over, if he does not give away every single thing that he owns, then he means he's doing it with a full seriousness, and he cannot change his mind. However, Shiur metaltalim le'asabel klim, it's not considered a shiur. And in Omat Choizer, if he wakes up, he can still Shiur Karka Kol Shehu mitzvot. He has some way to survive. Shiur Avonim Gatois ein mitzvot. But that's just a side note. It doesn't argue. It just says a fact that this is the fact from the statement. This is also a separate statement here, that if you make a kinyan, then it's matnas bari, and even if he wakes up, he cannot change his mind. So either if he leaves over anything, he cannot change his mind. Or if he makes a kinyan. Shiur avodim, so the question is, how about slaves? Are they considered movable objects? That is not considered a shiur. If he leaves over movable objects, we say, okay, it's considered like you gave everything away, and if you wake up, you can change. We don't know what exactly the psak was. He said something on this case, but we don't know what. Okay, this is the end. We just finished now Daf Lamed Aleph and Lamed Beis 31, Daf 31 and 32.